Talk About with John Twigg is brought to you in part by Brian Shaw with Mackey Research Capital in Campbell River, offering portfolio management, investment planning, and insurance products.
Hi, welcome to Talk About. My name's John Twigg. Last week we had a politician on, and this week we've got three guests about addictions. Not much difference. So we've got Tessera Brooks from Second Chance Recovery House. We've got Dr. Ron Everett, president of the Alano Club, and Michelle Gunther of NADIS, North Island Alcohol and Drug Information and Education Society. So we were chatting a little bit before we started, and we were talking about the pervasiveness of addictions. And I think, Ron, you said that there's so many kinds. Tell us a bit about your perspective on addictions.
Well, addiction to me personally is out of balance. So excessive use of just about anything. And I think there's addictions that touch all of us in many different ways of our life.
Yeah, but the three groups that you're with, they seem to focus on alcohol and more lately on drugs. But there's also food and internet. And one of the ones I wanted to get to, perhaps not right away, but is opioids, where people get addicted to painkillers. So, but before we get there, let's do the history. Alano Club, formed in 1978. That's a long time ago now.
Absolutely. And it's one of the few Alano clubs that owns its own building, which is a bit of an oddity. And
it's downtown near the old theater.
Exactly, on 10th Avenue. So our focus is alcohol and drugs. So the only requirement to use our facility is you have to be clean and sober that day. So it's just a safe place to go for people that are trying to not
the
mix.
habit.
Yep, kick the habit. So that's the requirement.
Yeah, and Tessera Second Chance Recovery House. It's downtown, I gather.
No, we're up on...
Oh, pardon me, that's the residential area.
Yes, we're in a residential area, a few blocks from the hospital.
Oh, okay.
And we've been open since 1990 and offer two services to the community. One of our contracts is for crisis stabilization beds. So that is mainly called social detox, where men come in to detox without medical oversight. So the crisis nurses at Campbell River Hospital or an ACT team nurse refers them into a bed. The other contract is for supportive recovery, education supports, referral through an addictions clinician or a mental health clinician.
Now you said men. What about women?
Women are served in that way through the Campbell River Transition Society.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's a new women's recovery center opened in Courtenay as well. So there are services there.
Right. And Michelle, North Island Alcohol and Drug Information and Education Society?
Also known as NADIS.
Yeah, not NADIS.
No.
That's actually also quite old. The idea was 1980. In the background information, and I think it incorporated in 1983.
In 1983, yeah.
Yeah. So
Ron Tremblay and Lloyd Russell, I believe, started it.
Yeah. And what's its focus?
Our focus is it's the largest free lending library of DVDs concerning any kind of addictions, alcoholism, drugs, drug awareness, drug prevention. We carry like over 1,000 DVDs.
Wow.
From kindergarten till seniors.
So kindergarten kids of parents who are addicted, they get videos?
Those are prevention ones.
Oh, okay.
We have a lot of prevention materials there.
Yeah.
So there's DVDs on there, and there's only certain places you can buy them and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So.
Where are you located? How do people get them?
Oh, okay. We're located on the Island Highway, 910 Island Highway, and we're open.
Is that down Pierce Street area?
Yep, right
Okay.
across from Georgia Key.
Oh.
And beside Claire Trevina's office.
Oh, okay.
And they've been there for 30 years.
Is there not also some kind of a treatment center though down on Bay Street, Pierce Street?
Not
No?
that I know of. No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Well, see, I don't know a lot about this area. Well, okay, let's do this. In the Mirror today, which as we're recording is Wednesday, June the 1st, front page story, Sobering Assessment Center RFP issued. That's a request for a proposal. And Paul Mason of Campbell River Family Services and many others are thrilled with the news. Island Health has issued a request for a proposal for a new community-based sobering and assessment program in Campbell River. And it goes on, of course. How important is that?
I think it's extremely important. I think all people that offer services to men and women with addiction concerns are really excited to see another service coming into Campbell River.
Yeah.
It's wonderful to see some dollars coming into the community to support services.
It could be a while though. It's like they're talking about maybe by the end of the year. But Paul Mason is sort of saying, probably it'll take longer than that because you got to find somebody, well, a few people to bid on it. Then they got to find a location. Then they've got to either build or retrofit a facility. So
Correct. Yeah.
it could be a while.
It could take a little while, but once it's
Yeah.
established, it'll offer
Yeah.
very good service. Yeah.
Why is it needed? Because when there's already lots of other services here.
I think one of the primary things is that there are a number of people who are so marginalized, they're affected through their addiction issues. Many are homeless and are continually in a circle of ending up at the hospital perhaps, or ending up in RCMP cells, and getting sicker and sicker. And in this way, if they could be brought into a sobering assessment center, they would be seen by a nurse, there would be some medical supports, and also offered other services, see if they're ready to take a step out of their addictions. And yeah, I think it'll offer a tremendous service to the community.
Now, before we started recording, I think you mentioned that that's going to save money instead of people going to emergency. How does that work?
I hate to. Well, if somebody is continually going into emergency, if the police pick up somebody who is perhaps drunk and disorderly and or at risk in active intoxication or whatever drugs they're on, then they get cycled into emergency and they're seen and then released, and the same cycle tends to continue, and it's quite a burden financially, and it costs a lot to access services at a hospital for the government. So with this, they would have like the nurse on site and staff support and be able to really give them some good care.
One of the items in the news as we're speaking is some concerns about the new health information system that I think it's VIHA, still called VIHA, is trying to get on the island, and they've started down island somewhere, but it's a new computer system, and so every time a patient shows up, they kick in a new electronic file. And when they're referred to your facility, then or this new facility, maybe that's not going to happen?
Well, we don't have access to the electronic file. So if a client that's at our facility is seen by a mental health or addiction clinician, yes, they're on the electronic filing system if they go to their physician, if they go to the hospital, but the nonprofits don't access that, to put information into or add to. So I think it's a good thing. I think it's a very, very good thing.
But I'm wondering how much of this is a case of the government trying to save money, which, by the way, is not a bad thing.
I think it's always a case of the government trying to save money. I think they're always trying to do the most service they can for, the least tax dollars. Yeah.
What about the meals? How does
meals?
Yeah. Well, like if somebody's being assessed for that, I
they would have
it takes
food.
More than 24 hours.
Well, I think the idea, as I understand it, of the sobering assessment, it's a 23-hour, 24-hour period that the person is there, and but there will be access to food, and at some point it may even morph into more of a community hub, where they can get more and more services there. And there are other providers of food. There's Salvation Army has a lunch soup kitchen that they offer downtown, and
Yeah.
some of the churches offer meals, so people can
Yeah.
access
And
food.
like the extreme weather shelter is another issue, but it's related too, isn't it?
It's a big issue, and I would like to say a plug, it needs to be open all year.
Yeah.
So the government, provincial, established the extreme weather shelter, and I believe it had to be -2
Yeah.
or less for anyone to access it, eliminating, the miserably wet weather we have, high wind.
Yeah.
They need shelter, and they need to be able to access it all year.
Yeah.
So I really
Yeah.
dearly want to see dollars put into that.
Well, that relates to a Times columnist story I've got here. Program offers housing support to homeless, and this is out of Victoria. An additional 40 people who face multiple barriers to finding safe, stable, affordable housing will get a roof over their heads thanks to Pacifica Housing's Streets to Home program. A couple of paragraphs down, funded in part by BC Housing, the Victoria Foundation, and United Way. So 2 out of 3 of those are charities.
I think it appears, I've been working nearly 20 years in this field now, and it seems to fall more and more to the nonprofits to provide services as
Yeah.
opposed to coming directly, through the government dollar. And the nonprofit is relying on gaming money, I think we all do,
Yeah.
United Way money, donations, as well as the money we get from Island Health.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Michelle, where does NADIS get its money?
From gaming. And we have donations. And
Yeah.
we get quite a few donations.
But no direct government financing?
No.
No. Ron, how about Alano?
Well, we get a lot of ours from gaming, but we also serve food. We rent our building out for meetings. A lot of NAA meetings rent from us. We rent the building for celebrations of life.
Actually, yeah, I was there once for a memorial service for somebody,
Yeah,
a relative.
and we've started having some dances and some karaoke, and because that fits with our mandate of providing a fun, safe, another option for people to have
Yeah.
to get out
But,
there.
and thank you for all of the background documents you guys sent me. But one of them here had here it is, challenges and positives. Top challenge, funding. Government funding doesn't cover all our expenses.
Correct.
No.
No.
It doesn't. We have 24-hour staff. We have always full almost at our facility, and providing, of course, all meals and all housekeeping supports that would be needed, as well as group facilitators. And, we also are seeing clients come back. So we see about 120 to 30 clients a year, and we have easily up to 400 or 500 visits a year on site from ex-clients who are coming in, for more supports. Yeah.
Recidivism is a word I learned a long time ago. But repeat clients, that must be, maybe not in your case, Michelle, but certainly at Alano, certainly at Second Chance. Is that getting worse, or is it about getting better, about the same?
I think it's about the same. I haven't seen that really increase.
Yeah.
There are certain people that is going to happen with, certainly. But I wouldn't say it's increased. I don't feel that it has.
Well, I guess I'll flip the question a bit. How often does it take sort of like one visit and that's it? Or like not necessarily one day, but like one encounter and then never again?
Well, I about 5 years ago read some stats through some government information that about 50% of people will just come to an awareness that maybe they're drinking a little bit too much or smoking a little too much pot, and they will stop. Another large percentage will maybe talk to employment counselor, their pastor, or somebody, and get a little supports. So when you come down to people who are accessing recovery and treatment services, that is a certain, a smaller percent that have really gotten into significant addiction and need those supports. Yeah.
Michelle, what kind of trends do you see?
With addictions?
Well, just
Canberra?
your service? What kind of videos are being asked for?
Oh, we have, actually, there's one that I cannot find. It's on fentanyl. There is nothing out from the companies that we purchased from. They haven't supplied that one yet. But the one that we just bought, or one of the ones we just bought, was one on e-cigarettes. So, and it's designed for school kids. So there was one of the teachers at Carey High had specifically asked for that one. So, you know, so we just purchased that one. Haven't received it yet. And a lot of drugs. The schools want to know about which drugs and be able to show films in the classroom. I've attended some of the Planning 10 classes and stuff like that. So just to show the films.
Yeah. How many thousand videos have you got?
We've got approximately 1,000 now.
1,000, yeah.
Some really old stuff.
Yes,
You know, but
still
if you close your eyes,
acetate?
if you close your eyes and you don't look at the hairstyles or anything like that, the message is still good.
Yeah.
You know, it hasn't changed much.
Yeah.
I wanted to say something.
Sure.
If I can just throw
Actually,
something into.
that's one of the things I do want to talk about is like, is there something I didn't ask?
Yeah, I think because I've been at Second Chance so long, when I first started, it was very significantly an alcoholic would come in, or a drug addict would come in. Somebody usually on heroin, cocaine, and it was really quite distinctive. About 7-8 years ago, it started to become, you know, polysubstance abuse, people using everything. It's really seldom now that we have a client enter, because we do a full drug history when they arrive, whether it's detox or for the program. And it's very, very few where it's strictly alcohol, strictly heroin. They're using everything. And I wanted to mention that because we expected a big wave of crystal meth use. And we certainly saw some of that showing up a few years ago, not as significantly as I expected, but fentanyl, as you mentioned, is.
I wanted to explore that because that's fairly new, like within the last, I'm sure the drug has been around for a while. I shouldn't say I'm sure, I presume. But it's in the news now. It's basically taken over the heroin market in Vancouver.
Yeah,
are we seeing much here in Campbell River?
Yes, we are. That is what that is particularly the last 2 years. But yeah, we have more and more people reporting using fentanyl, preferring fentanil to heroin. And it's scary.
I haven't seen anything in the local paper yet about any fentanyl busts or such.
I don't know.
Because it's a prescription drug, usually, then it's probably difficult for them to bust somebody on that.
Huh.
Yeah.
Any thoughts, Ron?
Well, I agree with that. The people are coming in multi-addicted now more than ever, and I think with addiction, there's always other underlying problems there, right? Those are the folks you get. Like there's for the severely addicted, it's a lot more complex than drinking too much or smoking too much pot. There's many complex issues behind it, and I think that's why we see the same people coming back and back and back again.
Is that pain or money or family or?
Could be a combination of all, yeah.
And mental health issues.
Mental health, totally.
Significant.
Tell us about mental health issues.
We get a significant amount of clients referred in who do have already a diagnosed mental health issue.
Such as?
Bipolar, schizophrenia, significant depression, anxiety disorders, huge. And sometimes we get somebody who, the more sober days go by, the more unusual behaviors emerge, symptoms emerge, and we're able to let the clinician know that what we're seeing, and sometimes...
So is that self-medication reduces some of the presentations?
I believe so. I believe for a lot of folks when they're younger and they discover how pot or alcohol or some drugs are like assists them in a way to feel more normal, better in their environment. And of course, once that stops working, it's permanent and you're into a really significant addiction.
Yeah. Right. How about advice, Michelle, for people watching?
For people watching.
Yeah.
We get a lot of calls at NADIS for somebody who would like to go into treatment, who would like to go to detox, and or parents that say, I think my son has a problem with marijuana and things like that. And especially the ones for treatment and or detox, they have to be ready. They have to make that decision to take that step, like to go to Second Chance or to go to the crisis nurse and say, I need help.
Yeah.
And, there's a lot of people out there that are actively addicted that aren't making that choice.
Yeah. So where should those people go?
A lot of them I send at this point in time, before this comes into effect, would be the crisis nurse at the hospital, mental health and addictions. It depends on the issue, it's if they're having anxiety problems and stuff like that, we refer to counselors.
Yeah. Counselors where?
Usually the Strathcona counselling.
Okay.
And or mental health as well.
Do school counselors fit in here?
Well, we don't usually hear from School District 72 for issues like that. They usually find out beforehand.
Yeah.
But they'll phone and say, do you have anything on, such and such addiction, or do you have anything where, their parents are drinking and there's a problem at home, and do you have a DVD on that? And those are the type of things we have, and we get quite a few calls. But they got to be ready.
Yeah. Ron, what advice do you have for people watching?
Well, we are not in the information or counseling. We are strictly there to support them so they have somewhere to go. I would say if you, if you're not able to control your actions, and if you only do things when you're drunk or on drugs, then you need to go get some information on it. So we're not in the counseling business or information, we're just support.
Yeah. But it's the same thing as like, okay, well, where do they go? Tessera mentioned the nurse at the hospital.
Yes, we have a whole list of phone numbers with Second Chance. We have all of the phone numbers there, and we'll advise. But our volunteers, so you may walk in there and meet a volunteer, right, who you don't really want to take their professional opinion, because lots of our volunteers are our members and they're struggling as well, right? So we don't like to give advice. We will give them numbers to where they can go get some advice.
Yeah. Somewhere in my background briefing, I think one of you, but some of the churches, and in particular the Seventh Day, I believe, have some counseling services too.
Well, many of the churches have some counseling services that they offer. So if a person's attached to a church, a family member, or the person themselves, it's a good place to go and go from there. Campbell River has a real gift in the crisis nurses at the Campbell River Hospital. They are on 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, and I know that other community hospitals have about half that kind of staffing for services like this. So it's a really important
that would save money too, though, by having an astute nurse who can say, okay, this person needs that, this person needs that, and sort of, well, we'll send you for tests.
Yeah, and when I say crisis nurse, I mean they're psychiatric nurses, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a gift. We have a really powerful thing there. And mental health and substance use is free for any community member to go. So you can go and talk, make an appointment, and talk about a family member who's struggling, perhaps a colleague at work, or maybe somebody in your family, or if you have the issue yourself. So.
Now, there's quite a few GPs in town. When I say quite a few, it's relative. There's never enough. But how are they? I would think that some doctors are better than others on addiction issues.
Yes, I'd agree with that.
Yeah. So if you're a person watching and your doctor is, what do you suggest?
Well, I think, first of all, the person really needs, for advice, the person with the addiction issues needs to be honest with their GP. Because the GP can only help with what they know. And a lot of people withhold that. And that's one of the questions we do during our intake. Is your doctor aware or unaware of your addiction issue? And many have hidden it. So, the doctor might have a sense of it, but not be fully fully aware, and so if they're honest, the doctor can help them better.
Okay. What's the first place people should go? Or the best clearinghouse for, oh, I need help? The nurse at the hospital?
Not necessarily.
Where would you suggest?
I think a first phone call might be to mental health and substance use, and
Which is the Ministry of Health?
no, mental health and substance use. Sorry, the government all changed their names about every
Yes.
year and a half, so I'm keeping
Yeah.
up. No, it's mental health and substance use, and it's on Shoppers Row, and the phone number is in the phone book, and they could phone and.
In the blue pages?
Yes, I imagine. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not sure.
So mental health in the phone book.
Yes, and substance use. So it's
Okay.
yeah, or even just to walk in and set up an appointment and
Okay.
or talk to your doctor. But the first thing for someone with addiction is talk to somebody. Start talking.
Good. Well, that's a good place for us to end because we're out of time. But thank you all for coming in and doing this, and thank you for the work you do, and best wishes at keeping it up. And for the agencies that aren't here, thank you too, because
There's lots.
yes, there are actually. So we probably need more. So there's Talk About. Thank you, Valerie. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Chaz and Gord. And a shout out to Brian Shaw for sponsoring Talk About here on Shaw TV North Island. If you'd like to watch this again, Shaw TV North Island has a YouTube channel as well.
Talk About with John Twigg is brought to you in part by Brian Shaw with Mackey Research Capital in Campbell River, offering portfolio management, investment planning, and insurance products.